So ever since the release of Assassin's Creed Unity, I have absolutely bashed the shit out of the game for being one of the worst games I've ever played. Now, this was due to all the glitches, the story, the gameplay, just everything about the game I disliked upon release after assessing what the game was actually all about and like how it worked and how it played and everything. And when I formed my opinions, they were not very good opinions. But as of late, I think those opinions have shifted. And I don't think the game's as bad as it originally was, and it's also one of the better Assassin's Creed games of recent years. Now this probably surprises you, as a few months back I made a video specifically calling Assassin's Creed Unity shit. The video was called "This Game is Shit." So yeah, that was my opinion back then on Assassin's Creed Unity, but now it has changed and I want to share my opinion with you. Also comparing Assassin's Creed Unity to Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which is the latest installment in the Assassin's Creed franchise, which my opinions have also recently changed on, because the more I think about it, the more flaws I find in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. So let's get straight into this video. So, Assassin's Creed Unity is a game that is renowned in the community as being a really generally bad game. Now, when the game first came out, it was littered with glitches and, you know, people just didn't like the game in general because the combat was clunky, the stealth didn't work, you fell through the floor and stuff. And there was also a huge issue with frame rate, where the frames would drop substantially just anywhere on the map, and then when you went near a crowd, the frames would drop even more, which was incredibly annoying, and was a huge immersion breaker for people that like wanted to get immersed, and I for one was certainly someone that likes to get immersed in games. So the fact that the frames would constantly drop would make the game really unplayable. But over the months of Unity being released, these small glitches and pop-ins and frame rate issues were slowly ironed out, and the game works a lot better today. I just haven't bothered to go back to it to replay it, but I've seen other people play it nowadays, and to be fair, the glitches aren't as prominent as they were when the game first came out, and the frame rate issues aren't as bad. Now I think about it, Unity isn't actually a bad game. It had quite a good city that it was set in. The gameplay felt like classic Assassin's Creed. You had all the different assassin moves that were in the other game, but just in a new engine, and the whole game felt like Assassin's Creed. The free roam was also fun. It had replayability. The world was littered with side quests and collectibles. There were different missions that you could do, and the game would be fun to replay if you wanted to replay it and do all the side quests and get 100% sync. The customization was also incredibly extensive, with loads of different armor that you could choose from, and there was also a bunch of outfits you could get, including the legacy outfits and also the assassin outfit you can get in the game for completing all the Nostradamus enigmas. Don't forget the fact there was also tons of weapons in the game as well, and also an extra added co-op feature which you didn't even need to use, which was also sometimes quite fun to play with friends, even though it didn't work a lot of the time, but it was still there for people that wanted to use it, and the co-op was just a nice little thing to have in. Plus, fans had requested a co-op mode in previous games, and Ubisoft obviously delivered. Unity also featured an interesting leveling system that none other Assassin's Creed game had seen before, which I quite liked. I quite like having in games a leveling system where you level up and get better and get more health and stuff like that, and more perks. It's a lot more fun than just going through a game not feeling that progression and that level change. However, this customization and different like armors you could get was spoiled a bit by the microtransactions that was littered in Assassin's Creed Unity. As I've stated in a previous video, it's kind of stupid that all of the armor and weapons that were the best in the game were so much money that you couldn't really get them unless you wanted to grind for hours getting money in the game just to get the best armor and weapons. So Ubisoft had these microtransactions in place so people would feel they need to use them to get the best armor and weapons in the game, which was a bad thing to do because microtransactions are never really a good thing. If they're there as an optional thing that you can just do, you know, and it's just like extra maps or something to get different treasures or collectibles, and that's fine. But if it makes it so you literally just get Helix credits to buy armor, it isn't very good. Now, I'm not saying people were physically forced to get these microtransactions, it's just that people would look at it and be like, that's an easier way to get this best armor, I don't have enough time to grind for that. So they would buy the microtransactions and then Ubisoft would profit from that, which isn't a bad thing for Ubisoft. I'm not saying it's bad for Ubisoft to profit, I'm just saying that people shouldn't have to feel like they have to spend real life money to get something they can get with in-game money. A lot of people have also bashed the combat in Unity, myself included, but now thinking about it, I much prefer the combat in Unity to Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I cannot stand the combat in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. In Unity, it doesn't really work because the game overall doesn't work awfully well, but if the game wasn't so glitchy, the combat would be incredibly good in Assassin's Creed Unity, but it doesn't work. But I still prefer the combat, even though it is glitchy and doesn't kind of look right when you do it. I still prefer the combat in Unity to the combat in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. The Syndicate combat is too repetitive and just a bit boring, and I don't really like it. I like Arno as a character more than Jacob and Evie as well. You see the progression from the beginning of Assassin's Creed Unity to the beginning of Dead Kings. He kind of gets over Elise, he kind of finds himself in the Assassin Order, becomes a Master Assassin, then goes up to the Franciard to do Dead Kings, and it's all just a lot better. Arno is a much more interesting character than Jacob and Evie, and I think it would be amazing if we had another game with Arno. I think he should have had another game opposed to there being Assassin's Creed Syndicate, because there was so much more room for progression with Arno, and he could have been an amazing character if they would have just stuck with him and given him one more game opposed to going to Jacob and Evie. So, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, when I first played this game, I thought, yeah, this is so much better than Unity. Everything about this game is fucking great. And that is very common when you play a new game. You think, yeah, this is good, and you can't really find anything that's necessarily bad about the game because you're enjoying it for the first time. It was the same for Unity. I loved Unity when I was playing it, and afterwards I hated it, and now I've changed my opinions on that. But one of the reasons why Syndicate was actually not as good as Unity is because of the combat. Now, the combat in Assassin's Creed Syndicate was incredibly repetitive, it was fucking boring, it was kind of the same thing over and over again. At least the combat in Unity, when it worked, had a variety in combos, and it was difficult to some degree. The combat in Syndicate is just way too easy. You can take on about 16 people at once, and it's just really, really repetitive and boring, and I don't enjoy it at all. I got a lot more enjoyment from the combat in Assassin's Creed Unity, because as I said, there's a lot more variety in how you can kill people. Although Syndicate had less glitches than Unity, everything about Unity still felt more grounded and more like an Assassin's Creed game. Syndicate kind of just felt like a game where you was in London and you were controlling a gang and doing missions for the assassins every now and then. It didn't really feel like an Assassin's Creed game, and Jacob and Evie kind of just felt like very stale, forgettable characters in general. Now, I think it's a very bad idea that Ubisoft added the two characters into it, because it means you didn't really connect with one individual character, you were kind of focusing on two, and it was a bit odd because the skills of Jacob and Evie were practically identical. Now, once you maxed their skills out and you leveled them up to the maximum level, then Evie had the chameleon ability and Jacob had some combo upgrade. But apart from that, Jacob and Evie weren't awfully difficult. You could do exactly the same things with each character. You could throw throwing knives, you could use your guns, you could go in all combat, you could use stealth. And they just weren't awfully different at all, which makes me question why Ubisoft felt the need to put in these two characters, considering they're both exactly the same when you play as them. One thing that Syndicate did do better than Unity though was the overall feel of the game. Now, not as in the game just feeling better in general, I mean how the game played and when you were walking around and running up buildings and stuff. The game felt a lot more polished and finished than Unity did. When you're playing Unity, it feels like you're gonna fly in the air at any moment and the game could glitch out. But in Syndicate, it felt a lot more polished and more like a rounded game that you could play without fear of it glitching out all the time. And that is one thing that Syndicate did better than Unity, because obviously they worked on what happened in Unity bad, and they fixed everything that went wrong with Unity. The choice of weapons in Syndicate wasn't that extensive at all, really. There were only 3 weapon types you could pick from, which was the brass knuckles, the cane swords, and the kukris that you could get. Now, Assassin's Creed usually has quite an extensive amount of weapons that you could use. So obviously Assassin's Creed Unity had the most weapons in it, but even earlier in the series, in the Ezio trilogy, there was a lot of weapons to choose from to suit your playstyle. And Assassin's Creed Syndicate completely took this different playstyle out from Unity and just made it so everyone had to use the same weapons, 3 different types of weapons, and they were all practically the same, and they just had different animations for when you used them. It didn't really feel like you were using a different weapon, it just kind of felt like you were using the same thing over and over again, which made the game even more boring. And on top of the small variety of weapons that there were to offer, there wasn't an awful lot of customization in terms of the cosmetics either, so you couldn't change your robes up an awful lot, and there was kind of a few legacy outfits, but I don't know why they took the legacy outfits out. There was no Arno outfit, there was no Shay outfit, there was no Ezio Assassin's Creed 2 outfit, which is what people have been wanting for quite some time in the games. And there was not many outfits to choose from in general. There were no outfits that stood out to me in the game. The Master Assassin outfit looked like absolute dog shit. I think Jacob's original outfit that he gets when he becomes an actual established assassin is the best one, because the rest of them just kind of like absolute dog shit. And Evie's outfits are kind of the same. They aren't very different from each other. There's maybe 1 or 2 that's good on Evie, because Evie's customization seems to be slightly better than Jacob's. But overall, the customization wasn't very extensive in Syndicate, which made it feel like it wasn't really worthwhile, because you didn't feel that progression in the game. Also, they took out the ability to have a fucking hood. I just wanted a hood. I just wanted a hood, Ubisoft. That's all I wanted. A fucking hood to cover my fucking head. That's all I wanted. But you got rid of it, didn't you? You got rid of the fucking hood as well. Now, although the combat was terrible, London was actually quite an interesting place, not in terms of side quests, because the side quests were absolute shit in my opinion in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, but London was actually quite a nice city. It felt kind of like a breathing city when you're walking through it, and it was nice to play Assassin's Creed in a place I've been in real life, because it just makes everything more interesting and more relatable, because you can go to different places and be like, does it look like this still in real life and stuff, and you can go there and explore, and it was quite a fun city to explore. But in terms of side quests, the London stories were uninteresting, and there were nowhere near as many side activities as there were in Unity, which is definitely a bad thing. Unity did very well with side quests in the game, and Syndicate did very poorly with the amount of side content that they had. The boroughs, when you're taking over the boroughs, it was kind of just doing a load of missions over and over and over and over and over again, just to kill like a kind of main Templar target, which is boring. It was really boring. It was terrible, actually, and I want something like that, but I want it to be where you have to scope out your target, and then you have to find more about them, and then you're going for the assassination, and each Templar has their own personality. Kind of what they were trying to do in Syndicate, but in a more established and fleshed out way, opposed to just doing a few missions of liberation and getting a Templar agent or something, and then killing the Templar at the end and overtaking the borough. I think they could have done that a bit better. Also, let's not forget the mess that was the Jack the Ripper DLC. You know, Jack the Ripper was a former assassin who turned rogue and decided to fucking go around hunting down assassins, which happened to be prostitutes. And, you know, he also took over the Rooks and called them Rippers, and yeah, that happened somehow, even though Jacob was still in London at the time. But, you know, Jack the Ripper just did that somehow. It was a fucking shit DLC, let's be honest. It was wank. But yeah, we're just going to forget about the Jack the Ripper DLC and the last Maharaja DLC, because let's be honest, the DLC for Assassin's Creed Syndicate was absolute dog shit, and we don't want to hear about that ever again. But, you know, the actual Syndicate game was okay. It was an okay Assassin's Creed game, but it was just very stale and forgettable. It was not fucking shit, but I think it's a very weak Assassin's Creed game, and I probably wouldn't have played it if it wasn't Assassin's Creed, to be quite fair. But that's my opinions on Assassin's Creed Syndicate and Assassin's Creed Unity. I decided to do a video on this because a few of people in the community have done them recently, about a month ago, so I thought I'd voice my opinions on the games as well. And we all seem to have similar views that Assassin's Creed Unity is better than Syndicate in some aspects, and Syndicate is better than Unity in some aspects. But I think Unity, in my opinion, does take a higher spot than Syndicate in the Assassin's Creed games. Now I've reevaluated everything, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to drop a comment telling me what you think about the two Assassin's Creed games, which one you think is better. Now I know there's going to be mixed opinions in the comment section, but I want you guys to drop a comment giving your opinions and stuff. Remember to like and subscribe for future Assassin's Creed content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!